First of all, I ought to qualify. I didn't sell everything I owned, obviously, but I did sell an awful lot of what I'd accumulated over a period of time. And more interesting is not how I sold it. I'm sure you all know how to sell things, is why I did it. I hope this sort of may provide some inspiration, maybe just an amusing story, but I'd been in a career for 10 years, earning a very good six-figure salary. I'd also been part of an exit of a business and received a seven-figure sum during that exit, but I was still only a very small shareholder in what was becoming a very big corporate company. And I still had the burning ambition to get back to what was the startup. So we took a business from 0 to 100 million turnover with a group of people and some private equity investors. But I still really didn't feel like I had any ownership of the business. I was driving it and running it, but not a massive shareholder. So I still wanted to start a business. The problem was I'd become so comfortable and sort of fat cattish that it became increasingly more difficult to make the decision to go back and start again. But I made the decision, and it was a terrible time to do it. It was 2009, which was sort of the depths of the economic global economic crash. And I said to my wife, and I was sitting there in this huge, great big manor house with all these wonderful trinkets and cars and everything, and I said, everything's going to go. We've got to sell everything. I've got to start up a new business. And I am still married, by the way. I didn't get rid of her as well. Close, but not quite. And she was very, very supportive, which was one of the key things about it. And then I systematically started selling everything I had over a period of 4 or 5 months. And I mean a lot of what I called a sort of circus around me, and anybody who's been sort of vaguely successful over a period of time, and particularly over 10 years, you accumulate a lot of things. And the reason I did it, because I knew that I had to get back to being very agile financially. I was very blunt financially. They joke about knowing the price of a pint of milk, but you get to that sort of stage. So I sold everything. I sold, the list is, I had 6 classic cars. I sold a great big house. Christie's came in and stripped the entire place of everything I owned. And I got to the point where I had very little left other than lots of money. And of course, when you set your own business up, you do need lots of money. This was at the time when the banks were very, very reluctant to lend. I did have a partner who was a very high net worth individual, but I wanted to own a lot of the business, therefore I had to put a lot of money into the business, and also I knew that I couldn't take a huge salary, because if you're taking money out of a startup, it's money that you're not putting into it, and I wanted to build a big company very, very quickly with what I'd learned. So, as I say, systematically went through, sold everything, and it was an amazing experience, I have to say, and anybody who is scared to make that jump into starting up their own business, it's one of the things that is actually a delight to shed away all these material things that you really, really do not need in your life, particularly when you're starting up a business, because you think of nothing else but the business, so you don't have time to go on these lovely holidays and these fantastic restaurants. You are literally in the zone for 2 or 3 years. And once I sold everything, one of the 2 things I bought at that time were a bicycle and an underground card, an Oyster card, which I'd never bought before. And I went to the guy on the thing and I said, I need an Oyster card. And he said, how much would you like to put on it? And I said, I don't know, £200. And he sort of looked at me and he said, start with 20 quid, just in case you lose it. And I was like, okay, that's a really good idea. So I sort of had to, but the point about it was, when you're starting a new business, as I say, you've got to be sharp. You've got to get back to every 25 pence a square foot when you're negotiating with a landlord is important. When you're dealing with staff, you can't sit there in front of someone who's being paid less than your gardener and have a sensible conversation about whether or not they're value for money. When you're buying things for your business, whatever it is, you need to be back to the nitty-gritty of negotiating, and you can only do that if you're in that zone. So I just felt, I took it to an extreme, I admit, but it really, really worked for me. And now the business that I've set up has been very successful, and I think part of that was because of that, and now we're looking at our 3rd year this year with a £27 million turnover, which is a terrific achievement. I'm very proud of them. We've got 100 staff now. But as I say, anybody who wants to make that jump from being in a corporate environment and thinking that they can't do it because of all these, massive, I called it the circus around me. It is possible, it is doable, and I have to say it's incredibly cathartic and very, very refreshing to do, and you actually feel so free when you've done it that you never seem to want to go back, so it's great.